Good morning. I am K. Radhakrishna Menon, Vice President, Content Development Training and Conferences, National Association of Palliative Care for Ayush and Integrative Medicine. I would like to present before you a session prepared by Colonel Dr. Yashwant Joshi, my fellow Vice President of National Association of Palliative Care for Ayush and Integrative Medicine. So, let us discuss in detail what is NDPS Act. NDPS stands for Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substance Act, which was passed in 1985. What are NDPS rules which were formed on the basis of the Act in 1985? How laws are formed? Societal Behavior Regulation, Bill, Act, Rules and Systems of Procedures. These are the four fundamental areas where each rule or act is concerned with. Now, how laws are formed? What is law? A law is a general term for any legal rule or regulation enforced by the governments to regulate behavior or activities in that society. The term can additionally mean a system of rules that are created and enforced by the government for the same purpose. A bill is proposed by law, drafted by the government or by the lawmakers to be debated and voted upon in the legislature, and if passed by the legislature, to be enacted into force by a certain constitutional procedure. An act is enacted legislation, the written law or the statute. The act most usually means primary legislation, that is, the principal statute enacted according to the lawmaking procedure by the legislature. Very often, the act will have secondary or delegated legislation. We usually call them regulation or rules to fine tune the operation of the act. Ordinances are temporary laws. They are circulated by the President of India on the recommendation of the Union Cabinet. They can only be delivered when the Parliament is not in session. They enable Indian government to take immediate legislative action. What is NDPS Act 1985? This act governs control and availability of groups of drugs called narcotics like morphine and psychotropic like amphetamine, which have medical value. The scope of the act did not address adequately the accessibility and availability issues of these drugs for medical treatment of patients in pain. Hospitals have to obtain licenses for stocking, import, export, transport, etc. from different departments. What are the barriers in Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substance Rules 1985? One of the chief barriers was the prohibitory regulatory procedures of the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substance Act of 1985. The scope of the act did not address adequately the accessibility, availability and issue of these drugs for medical treatment of patients in pain. Hospitals have to obtain licenses for stocking, import, export, transport, etc. from different departments. These licenses need to be valid, though often the validity period of a license is as short as a month. By the time the institution gets a second license, the first would have expired its validity. Most institutions solve this problem by not stocking these medicines, hence patients suffer as well as doctors do not get the experience. We have this NDPS Act rules amended in May 2015, recognizing the essentiality of the opioid as medicine. The NDPS Rules 1985 was amended in 2015. This amendment aims at broadening the scope of the rules to include access and availability of opioids for medical and scientific use. Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Third Amendment Rules 2015, formed by the central government, has introduced the concept of recognized medical institutions or RMI for stocking and dispensing essential narcotic drugs. We call it ENDS. These new simplified provisions maintain a fine balance between the easy availability of the essential narcotic drugs for the medical use and the required control to prevent their diversion for abuse. These rules are called NDPS Third Amendment Rules 2015. These specifically discuss RMI status, RMP status, END. 6 drugs have been covered under essential narcotic drugs, namely codeine, fentanyl, hydrocodone, methadone, morphine and oxycodone. Licensing process became easier and systematic. Transportation has become easier. Cancellation of RMI status, appeal procedure. So, these are the advantages of the third amendment of NDPS rules in 2015. What is medical institution? Medical institution means a hospital, dispensary, clinic or institution by whatever name called that offers services or facilities requiring diagnosis, treatment or care of illness, disease, injury, deformity or abnormality established and administered or maintained by the government or municipal corporation or municipal council or Zilla Parishad or any person or body of persons. What is recognized medical institution? Recognized medical institution or RMI means a medical institution recognized as such under the central government gazette notification dated 5 May 2015 regarding the narcotic drugs and psychotropic substance third amendment rules 2015. Who is a registered medical practitioner? Registered medical practitioner or RMP means any person registered as a medical practitioner under the Indian Medical Council Act 1956 or under any law for the registration of medical practitioner for the time being in force, or registered as a dentist under the Dentists Act 1948 or under any law for the registration of dentists for the time being in force and has undergone training in either one of the following courses: training in pain relief and palliative care for prescription of essential narcotic drugs or NDPS, opioid substitution therapy for prescription of essential narcotic drugs for treatment of opioid dependence. What is meant by designated medical practitioner or DMP? Designated medical practitioner, if RMI has only one RMP, he will be responsible for stocking and dispensing of NDPS and the relevant documentation. He will be known as designated medical practitioner. In a RMI where more than one RMPs are available, one of them shall be designated as overall in charge to carry out the duties of designated medical practitioner. Essential narcotic drugs or NDPS. Essential narcotic drugs, only those narcotic drugs which shall be prescribed and dispensed by RMI to patients under the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substance Third Amendment Rules 2015 and subsequent amendments. Essential narcotic drugs: methyl morphine, commonly known as codeine, and ethyl morphine in their salts including dionyne, fentanyl, phenethyl, propionylanilono, piperidine, the international not proprietary name of which is fentanyl, dihydrocodeine, commonly known as hydrocodone, its salts, diphenyl, dimethylheptanone, otherwise known as dimethylamino, diphenyl, heptanone and as methadone, morphine and its salts and all preparations containing more than 0.2% of morphine, dihydroxycodinone, commonly known as oxycodone and dihydrocodeine. Process of registration as registered medical institution. Recognized medical institution: government or municipal corporation or municipal council or Zilla Parishad, hospital, dispensary or medical institution with mandatory requirements fulfilled shall be deemed to be a recognized medical institution or RMI for possessing, dispensing or selling of essential narcotic drugs for medical purpose, and shall be exempt from making application to the Commissioner Food and Drugs Control Administration or FDCA for recognition as recognized medical institution. For registration by private medical institutions to get RMI status, an application along with forwarding letter will be made as per form number 3F and to be submitted to the Commissioner Food and Drugs Control Administration. Approval of an RMI. The Commissioner FDCA on receipt of application, subject to any inquiry which may be necessary, issue a certificate of recognition in form number 3G. This certificate shall be issued within 60 days from the date of receipt of such application. In case the certificate of recognition is not issued within 60 days of period, the Commissioner FDCA or any other officer authorized by him in this regard shall inform the applicant the reasons thereof. The name of the designated medical practitioner or the overall in charge, as the case may be, shall be endorsed on the certificate of recognition issued by the Controller of Drugs. The certificate of recognition shall be issued for a period not exceeding 3 years at a time. In the event of a change in the constitution of an RMI, the current recognition shall be deemed to be valid for a maximum period of 90 days from the date on which the change takes place. In the event of any change in the constitution of the RMI, the designated medical practitioner or the overall in charge, as the case may be, shall inform the Commissioner FDCA in writing within 30 days from the date of such change for issue of fresh certificate of recognition. Renewal and surrender of RMI status. Recognized medical institutions, both government and private, for renewal will apply to the Commissioner FDCA as per form number 3F at least 60 days before the expiry of previous recognition. Surrender of recognition as RMI. An RMI may surrender its recognition by giving not less than 30 days notice in writing to the Commissioner FDCA. On surrender of the recognition, the ends may be in the possession of the RMI shall be disposed of in such manner, including transfer to another RMI as may be specified by the Commissioner FDCA. Designated medical practitioner. Every RMI shall designate one or more RMP who shall prescribe and dispense ends. When more than one RMP is designated, one of them shall be designated as overall in charge. The name of the designated medical practitioner or the overall in charge, as the case may be, shall be endorsed on the certificate of recognition issued by the Controller of Drugs. Whenever there is a change in the designated medical practitioner or the overall in charge, as the case may be, the RMI shall inform the Commissioner FDCA within 7 days from the date of such change for appropriate endorsement on the certificate of recognition. Duties of designated medical practitioner. Register the patients to whom essential narcotic drugs shall be dispensed or sold for medical use only. Maintain separate record in form number F3E for each patient, which shall be preserved for a minimum period of 2 years from the date of last entry. Maintain record of all receipts and disbursements of funds in form number 3H, which shall be preserved for a minimum period of 2 years from the date of last entry. File return for a calendar year on or before the 31st of March or the subsequent year in form number 31 to the Controller of Drugs. File return for a calendar year on or before the 31st of March of the subsequent year in form number 3I to the Controller of Drugs. Purchase ends from authorized manufacturers or licensed dealers or licensed chemists. Facilitate for safe stocking of ends. Requirement of END. Estimates of requirement of END. Every RMI shall submit an estimate of its annual requirement of ends in form number 3J by the 30th November of the preceding calendar year to the Commissioner FDCA. The Commissioner of Food and Drugs Control Administration shall consider it and either approves, modify or reject the estimate and inform the applicant by 31st December. In the event of rejection, the reason for the same will be intimated in writing to the applicant. Revised estimate of ends. If the requirement of a RMI exceeds the annual estimate submitted to the Commissioner, FDCA, it shall submit a revised estimate as per form number 3J by the 31st August of the calendar year to which the said annual estimate pertains to the controller of drugs. The Commissioner of Food and Drugs Control Administration shall consider it and either approves, modify or reject the estimate and inform the applicant within 1 month. In the event of rejection, the reason for the same will be intimated in writing to the applicant. It is clarified that an RMI may sell and disperse essential narcotic drugs over and above the quantity indicated in the estimate submitted to the Commissioner FDCA, but the designated medical practitioner or the overall in charge, as the case may be, shall record a brief justification for such increase while filing return in form number 3I. Purchase of NDPS. The RMI shall place orders for purchase of Ns and will be attached with the following: copy of estimate of annual requirement of Ns, that is form number 3J, approved by the Commissioner of Food and Drugs Control Administration; copy of certificate of recognition in form number 3G in case of first purchase. The purchase order shall have the following information: name and address of the recognized medical institution, description of the quantity for which order is placed. A photocopy of the approved estimate is to accompany each order of the purchase. Details of other orders of purchase made during the year. Possession of Ns by RMI. RMI shall possess essential narcotic drugs in quantities not exceeding the quantities mentioned in the estimate or revised estimate, as the case may be, of the annual requirement of such drugs submitted to the controller of drugs. The following will be followed: the unused Ns returned by the patient shall be considered as receipts by the RMI. Essential narcotic drugs shall not be transferred, loaned or sold by the RMI to other institutions without the prior approval of the controller of drugs. Receipt of Ns by RMI. Manufacturers or licensed dealers or licensed chemists, consignors shall sell the Ns to the RMI consignees as per purchase order. Consignors shall prepare the consignment order note in triplicate as per the format given in form 3C. Consignors shall send the original and the duplicate copies of the consignment note with the consignment of Ns to the RMI. On receipt of the consignment, the RMI shall enter the quantity received with date on both the consignment notes, send the duplicate copy of the note to the consignor for his use. The consignor and consignee shall preserve such consignment notes for a period of 2 years. Receipt of Ns by RMI. The consignment note shall not apply in cases where the sale of the Ns is accompanied by a sale bill or invoice or cash memo or any other document duly signed by the consignor or his authorized signatory, which shall include the following information about the consignment: name, address and license number of the consignor and the consignee. Where the consignee is a person to whom the Ns has been sold or dispensed for his personal use, research institution, RMP and RMI, the requirement of incorporating license number of the consignee shall not be applicable. Description, batch number and quantity. Mode and particulars of transport. These documents about purchase and receipt of Ns will be preserved for a period of 2 years by consignor and consignee. Possession of Ns by RMI. Possession of Ns. An RMI shall possess essential narcotic drugs in quantities not exceeding the quantities mentioned in the estimate or revised estimate, as the case may be, of the annual requirement of such drugs submitted to the FDCA. The following will be followed: the unused Ns returned by the patient shall be considered as receipts by the RMI. Essential narcotic drugs shall not be transferred, loaned or sold by the RMI to other institutions without the prior approval of the controller of drugs. Disposal of expired stock. The expired stock of N shall be destroyed by the RMI in the presence of an officer nominated by the controller of drugs. Home care treatment. Where home care treatment is provided to a patient registered with an RMI by deputing qualified personnel of such RMI to the home or residence or place of stay, either permanent or temporary, of such patient, the designated medical practitioner or the overall in charge, as the case may be, shall authorize such personnel to carry such quantity of ends as may be required for treatment of such patient, provided that home care treatment shall not be provided for treatment of opioid dependence. The designated medical practitioner or the overall in charge shall maintain proper record of such issue and also of the unused ends received from such personnel after completion of visit to the patient. Maintenance and inspection of stocks. All records generated under this SOP shall be kept for a period of 2 years from the date of last entry. Inspection of stocks. The stocks of ends under the custody of an RMI shall be opened for inspection by the Commissioner FDCA or any other officer authorized by him in this regard. Periodical and surprise inspection will be carried out by the head of the RMI. Suspension and cancellation of RMI status. The Commissioner FDCA may suspend or cancel the recognition as RMI for the following reasons. If the ends obtained by an RMI were supplied for non-medical use, or in the event of any breach of the conditions of the recognition, or in the event of violation of any of the provisions of the NDPS Act or rules and orders made thereunder. No order shall be passed as above unless the RMI has been given a reasonable opportunity of showing cause against the said orders or is heard in person if he so desires. Appeal and the procedure for appeal. An RMI aggrieved by any decision or order passed by the Commissioner FDCA may appeal to the Secretary to the State Government responsible for implementation of Drugs and Cosmetic Rules 1945 within a period of 60 days from the date of communication to him of such decision or order. Every memorandum of appeal shall be accompanied by a copy of the decision or order appealed against. Appeal and the procedure for appeal. The following procedure will be followed. The appellate authority shall give an opportunity to the appellant to be heard in person if he so desires. The appellate authority may, at the hearing of an appeal, allow the appellant to raise any other ground not specified in the appeal if the appellate authority is satisfied that omission of that ground from the appeal was not willful or unreasonable. The appellate authority may, after making such further inquiry as may be necessary, pass such order as it thinks fit, confirming, modifying or annulling the decision or order appealed against. The order of the appellate authority disposing of the appeal under this rule shall be in writing and shall state the points for determination, the decision thereon and the reasons for the decision. So, these are some of the salient features of the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substance Act 1985 and the amendments made thereafter. Thank you.